Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is João Barbosa. I'm from Brazil. I work at VTrust. We are based here in China, and we also cover India, Vietnam, Bangladesh, Cambodia, and I will be the presenter of today's webinar. Thanks for joining us. Okay, so if you were with us yesterday, so you are familiar with what we are going to cover, and welcome back. But if you just came for this part, you're also welcome to join, because we're going to cover lots of relevant information about sourcing in China, India, Vietnam, Cambodia, and Bangladesh. Yesterday, we covered pros and cons when sourcing in these countries. We covered the main factor, why manufacturers move to these countries, or why buyers try to extend their sourcing options. Also, the industrial expansion in China itself. Also, these sourcing destinations, we cover country by country, the advantages and disadvantages of this trend, ease of doing business in these countries by the manufacturer's point of view, and the resources for sourcing these countries. Today's webinar, we are going to cover the trade shows in China, India, Vietnam, Cambodia, Bangladesh, and also you're going to see the industrial clusters in these countries. You're going to know what types of products you can find in each major areas in these specific countries. So let's start. I'm going to recall a little bit about yesterday's webinar, especially about the reason why we chose this topic. The major factor, the major reason why we chose this topic for this webinar is the current trade war between China and America. These tariff disputes between America make especially the American buyers to find other options to start to move in order to catch up with their previous price, because they probably, if they're not paying already, they'll pay a lot of tariffs, and they'll make their price not competitive anymore. So this webinar is perfect for American buyers, but it's also perfect for other types for other buyers from different countries, because if you look at the situation now between America and China, maybe in the future something like that could happen to you. So it's always good to have a plan B. And this webinar, either part one and or part two or both, will be perfect for you in order to have an idea about sourcing in these countries. Yesterday, I also showed what are the major resources, like how can you find or how can you source in these countries. The main one that you can find sources, find new factories, is the online database. You go to sourcing platforms such as Alibaba, Made in China, or globalsource.com, and you can find factories for all of these countries. Also, another option is commercial chambers of commerce, associations of plant products, professional sourcing agents, information provided by industrial parks and economic zones. And if you want information or some specific information between these ones that I just mentioned, you can either watch our previous webinar, our part one webinar, or you can email me. You're more than welcome to email me, and we can discuss each one of these ones. And today, the top one, we are going to cover Tradeshows, which is the most efficient way of finding reliable factories in these countries. So we're going to start with China, but I will not cover much of China because China is very complex. You can find, although it has three major industrial clusters only, but the diversity in each one of these clusters is just too wide. You can find pretty much everything in every major industrial clusters. although there is some special, I mean, for some types of products, some special regions are popular for this, but China deserves a webinar, itself. So we might cover in the future sourcing here in China. So let's move on to the other countries. And if you have any questions regarding sourcing here in China, you are more than welcome to email me. Vietnam. If you were in our yesterday's webinar, you might remember that I said that the manufacturers in Vietnam are mostly owned by Chinese, Koreans, Singaporeans. So they are very developed. They are very sophisticated. But there's a catch. They are sophisticated. They are very developed for big buyers, for big retailers, for big consumer good companies. And they might not be a very good option for you because they require very large volume. They require the quantity has to be very high in order for you to have a good price, and in order for you to have good profits from these products. But that doesn't mean that if you are a small buyer or a medium buyer, you don't have options in Vietnam. You do have options in Vietnam. But there are advantages and also some disadvantages that you have to take into account. But let's suppose that you are willing to source in Vietnam, even though Vietnam also has three major industrial clusters: the Northeast, the South Central Coast, and the Mekong River Delta. The Northeast, there are two major manufacturing regions, which is Hanoi and Haiphong. Hanoi is famous for textiles, handcraft, and construction materials, such as steel pipes, etc. And Haiphong is electronic and electrical items, and also textiles. You might be wondering if it's safe to order electronic and electrical items, if it's okay to order. I would say that Vietnam still has a way to go in this particular area. So they're still catching up. They're still developing the electronic and electrical items. So you might face a lot of problems. Or if you're lucky, if you can't keep control of your order, if you can be there to watch production, maybe you're going to have a very good result. But if you're far away and you don't have much control of the supplies, it might be a good idea to have an agent or to have an inspection company to oversee your order for these specific products. The other major industrial cluster in Vietnam is the South Central Coast. Two major manufacturing regions, Da Nang and Bị Dinh. Da Nang is for wooden furniture and wooden decoration items. I mentioned yesterday that Vietnam is increasing a lot the orders for wooden furniture and wooden decorations. There are a lot of major manufacturers moving that also. Not only the local ones, but also major ones from China that is moving there, especially now at this moment that they want to give other options to the American buyers. So they are moving to these areas and developing this furniture sector there as well. Da Nang and Bị Dinh are for wooden. If you're looking for wooden furnitures and decoration items, home decoration items, this industrial class is perfect for you. And the one in the Mekong River Delta, the Ho Chi Minh area, which is textiles, wooden furniture, small decoration items, and construction items as well. All of these industrial clusters are popular for textiles, but each one of them has also its secondary industry. Like in the north, electronics, in the central area, wooden, and in the south, construction. India. So India has four major industrial clusters. All of them has textiles as popular. All of them. Also handcraft. So you find textiles in all areas and also handcraft. But there are some secondary ones that you should also keep in mind. For example, in the north, you have shoes, glassworks, iron foundries, leather, electronics, and knitwear. Also, in the west zone, textiles, chemicals, plastic, leather, synthetic goods. In the east zone, you have handcrafts, textiles, and in the south, silk textiles, machine tools, and leather goods. So textiles you'll find everywhere in India. So the east side, that you can find textiles and handcrafts, it's a very good region to find these products, but there's a catch. The port in Kolkata, it's overloaded. There's a huge overcapacity there, so there is a very big possibility that your order will be delayed. In order to your order will be delayed because of this problem. So you should definitely take this into account before ordering that. So and also for textiles, because of this problem, this port problem, many manufacturers moved into Bangladesh. So, but there are still lots of factories there. In the west zone, in the Mumbai belt, it's a very the density there is huge. Due to its industrialization that happened because of the railway that reached these areas and developed very fast. Lots of manufacturers there, and that made the ports, the port region, a hub for chemicals, and that brought plastic and synthetic goods to these regions, and you might find this type of goods there. Let's move to the next one, which is Cambodia. So Cambodia, just as India and Vietnam, is also very famous for textiles and garments. And in this area here, in the river, the Mekong River area, this is where the manufacturers will be. So this is where you're going to find the suppliers. But also there are other types of products that Cambodia is also exporting, such as glassware, paper, sugar, and other products. But the major area, the major industrial cluster is definitely surrounding the capital, Phnom Penh. So you will find these factories here. So if you have to source in Cambodia, if you want to visit Cambodia, you should definitely start in the capital, because that's where you're going to find the most reliable ones. Also, Cambodia has its industry developed by the Chinese manufacturers that moved to Cambodia, the Koreans and the Singaporeans also helped, Cambodia to develop its industrial sector. So you can find some professional manufacturers, some reliable manufacturers there because of that. Bangladesh, just like the other countries that I mentioned before, is also almost 100% based in garments and textiles, and the Dhaka capital region is the major industrial cluster. So if you want to source in this country, you should definitely go to the capital, and you find the most reliable resources there, the most reliable factories to have business with. In these areas, you can see it's always following the roads and the railways. You also find industries in these manufacturers in these regions, but it's mostly surrounding the capital. Yesterday we covered the sourcing platforms, but today you can take a longer look at it. So China, if you want to start by looking up online, you can go on Alibaba, Global Sources, Made in China, DHgate. Vietnam B2B Direct, Global Sources, and also Alibaba. India, TradeIndia.com, Global Sources, and Alibaba.com. Cambodia, B2B Cambodia, Global Sources, and Alibaba.com. Bangladesh, PriceCoto.com, and Global Sources, and Alibaba.com. So now we are going to move into the trade fairs. We're going to start with Vietnam. So Vietnam, the major trade fairs is for textiles. The major trade fair is definitely this one in orange, which you find once a year, and the next date is in November, and it happens in Ho Chi Minh, the capital. So you see textiles, Vietnam International Textile and Garment Industry, and then there's another one, which is Saigon Fabric and Garment Accessories Expo, also once a year in Ho Chi Minh, and it's in April. If you're looking for furniture, you definitely have to go to this one. It's the major furniture fair in Vietnam, Furniture and Home Decor, VIFA, once a year, also in Ho Chi Minh, and it's in March. So here you see the number of trading countries and regions that visit these major fairs in Vietnam. Is 26. Number of visitors, 25,000 in the main fair, and the exhibitors, over 1,150 exhibitors. So it's not very popular. It's not very developed, the trade fairs in Vietnam. But if you want to source that, you should definitely visit one of these fairs. These are the fairs in India. The major one is India International Trade Fair, and it happens once a year in New Delhi, and the next date is in November. Here in this fair, you can find every type of products that India produces, mostly textiles, definitely. And if you want something more specific for garments, only garments, you should visit also the Garfab TX, also once a year, and it happens in Surat. The next date will be April. You can find garments, embroidery, textiles, processing machineries for textiles, fabrics, and accessories. The major trade fairs in Cambodia, only for textiles. Cambodia International Textile and Garment Industry Exhibition. It happens once every 2 years in the capital, Phnom Penh, and the next date is in August. Also, there is another one that is not as famous as the Cambodia International Textile and Garment Industry Exhibition, but is also worth it if you are in the textile industry. Cambodia International Trade Exhibition, it happens once a year, and it's also in Phnom Penh, and the next date is in March. As you see, the number of trading countries and regions, only 30, the number of visitors, 10,000, exhibitors over 150. So it's a very small trade fair, but it's still, you find the major factories in these trade fairs. And it's a very good opportunity to get to know Cambodia's manufacturing industry. This one is in Bangladesh. So Bangladesh has only one major fair, and it happens once a year. Next date is February, and it's in the capital, Dhaka, also for textiles. Since Bangladesh has a very developed textile industry, the number of visitors is a little higher than Cambodia and Vietnam, and has more countries visiting it and a little more exhibitors. And here I put China in the last one, so you can compare just to see how the other countries still lag behind. For example, the Canton Fair, which happens twice a year, It attracts people from 213 different countries and regions, 200,000 visitors in each one of these editions, and it's over 25,000 exhibitors and about 24,000 Chinese exhibitors and 620 international exhibitors. So if you compare China's fairs and the other countries' fairs, you see that the other countries there's still a lot of room for improvement. So thank you very much for joining us today. And I would like to mention about our previous webinars. We had 3 previous webinars that happened since the beginning of the month. The first one is finding a supplier versus finding the right supplier, which was presented by our colleague Matthew. Matthew is our country manager in Vietnam. If you have any questions about this topic, or if you'd like to discuss, you can email him. You email me and I'll send you the links of the suppliers and also the contact of our colleague Matthew. Ensuring security of your imports and payments, which was presented by our senior account manager, Daria. Also, I can send you the links of these webinars. And ensuring trust and guarantee at each step of dealing with the supplier, which was presented by our colleague Tanya, our account manager Tanya. And also, we can send you the link for these webinars in the future. Okay? So this is the end of the webinar. Thank you very much and have a good day. Bye-bye.